I hugged her under the Christmas tree. For the last time. A mother-in-law's words, spoken without knowing that it was the final moment she'd ever touched Tiffany alive. 1 week before Christmas, a woman disappears. And then a chilling 911 call. Tiffany. She's dead. In the house. In the shed. This isn't just a murder story. It's a nightmare wrapped in tinsel, a holiday horror, hidden beneath fairy lights and carols. A man who couldn't accept she wanted to leave, and a family shattered on the night they thought they'd come together. Think you've heard heartbreaking cases before? Brace yourself, because what you're about to see might haunt you long after the credits roll. The Tiffany Morrison case, a Christmas tragedy no one will forget. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss the next gripping, emotional, and true crime film experiences we bring to you. Southwest Unit. I snatched her purse. A garbled police dispatch cuts through a haze of static. The screen flickers to life, grainy dashcam footage on a snow-dusted street. The timestamp reads December 18th, 2023, 6:57 p.m. A quiet Ohio neighborhood lies frozen under brittle light. Inflatable snowmen slump half-deflated on lawns. Tangled strings of Christmas lights blink out of rhythm. In one modest brick house on Shadyside Road, a tree stands half-decorated behind a fogged-up window, casting a ghostly red glow across the floor. The living room is still. An untouched mug of cocoa, an abandoned board game, a Christmas stocking hangs with no name on it. Just down the hallway, framed photos of a family line the walls. A woman beaming beneath summer sun, a father cradling a newborn, 3 kids in school uniforms. All perfectly ordinary, all perfectly still. Just 7 days before Christmas. While families across East Liverpool prepared gingerbread and strung lights, one family was silently fracturing. The season of joy would become a season of grief. The house on Shadyside Road would become a crime scene. And Tiffany Morrison, a 34-year-old mother of 3, wife, daughter-in-law, massage therapist, believer in second chances, would vanish. Tiffany hadn't planned to disappear. She had Christmas gifts stashed in the closet, stocking stuffers tucked into the glove box of her Jeep. She was looking at apartments. She'd recently taken on a second job at a plastics factory. Not because she had to, but because she wanted out. Out of the house, out of the marriage, out of the slow collapse that had become her life with Christopher. Christopher Morrison, 33. Her husband since they were teenagers. They'd built a life together, built a business together, a massage clinic across the state line in Pennsylvania. They'd raised 3 children, and slowly, quietly, resentments had taken root. Money problems, infidelity, power struggles, grudges that outlived apologies. Still, to the world outside, they were picture perfect. Their Facebook profiles showed birthday parties, anniversary kisses, smiling kids on Halloween. The kind of curated reality that said, nothing's wrong here. But something was. Underneath the photos were private messages, screamed arguments, missed counseling appointments, sleepless nights, and secrets. One of those secrets had a name: Jake Hill, 18 years old, under house arrest, a co-worker at the factory, and something more than a friend. Tiffany hadn't meant to fall for Jake. But kindness is rare currency when you live under emotional siege. He made her laugh again, made her feel seen, alive. For a few fleeting weeks, she tasted freedom. She considered leaving for good. She stayed at Jake's for 5 nights. She texted girlfriends about how it felt to be wanted again. She thought maybe she could be more than Christopher's wife, more than someone's mother. Maybe she could be Tiffany again. But life, especially the lives of women caught between safety and survival, doesn't let go so easily. When she came back, Christopher said he forgave her, said they could rebuild, said he'd try harder. He wept, he begged, he raged. And when Jake messaged him with photos with taunts, Christopher broke. That night, December 18th, Tiffany came home. Her mother-in-law, Kay, saw her standing near the Christmas tree. "I love you," Kay said. "I love you too," Tiffany replied. Then she disappeared into the bedroom to take a shower. She was never seen again. The next day, no one noticed she was missing. The kids had school holiday rehearsals, snowball fights. Kay had gifts to wrap. Christopher went about his day. The world turned. But somewhere, Tiffany's body lay still. And someone else knew. 2 days later, December 20th, a man named Randy Slager walked into the police station. He brought his father. And a story no one wanted to hear. He said Christopher had picked him up on the night of the 18th. Said he'd been taken to the basement. Said he saw a hole in the shower wall. Cleaned, bleached, bullet hole. And then Christopher showed him a photo. Tiffany's face, shattered by a gunshot. He said Christopher had wrapped her in a tarp, rolled her in a carpet, hidden her in the Jeep, then stashed her in the backyard shed. Randy said he didn't want to help. But Christopher had a gun, had a plan, had the cold, quiet fury of a man who had nothing left to lose. He threatened to kill the kids, Kay, everyone. So Randy helped, dragged the body, held the weight of betrayal in his palms, said nothing for 2 days, until the guilt drowned the fear. Tiffany's dead, Randy told dispatch. In the house, in the shed. By evening, police were at the Morrison house. Quiet, methodical. They watched, waited, then lured Christopher out with a phone call. 6:10 p.m. A traffic stop, calm voices, a glint of steel. Christopher had a handgun on his waistband and a switchblade in his pocket. He said he was just picking up a friend who had already told the truth. Inside the house, detectives moved through each room. Flashlights danced across damp drywall. A broken piece of the shower red staining the floorboards. In the shed, a rug, trash bags, tarp, and inside what remained of Tiffany Morrison. It hadn't been rage. It had been control. Not a crime of passion, a punishment. Tiffany had wanted out. Christopher had made sure she'd never leave again. And Christmas, once a time for magic, for music, for love, became a graveyard. Her children, too young to understand, would wait for gifts that never came. Her name wouldn't be called from the kitchen. Her seat at the table would remain empty. And the Morrison house, once filled with lights and laughter, would echo with silence. This is not a story of strangers. This is the story of a woman who loved too long, forgave too often, and ran too late. The killing of Tiffany Morrison. And it begins here. They were each other's first everything. Christopher and Tiffany met as teenagers in East Liverpool, passing notes behind textbooks, sneaking kisses in the back seat of borrowed cars, swearing they'd make it no matter what. They got married young, too young, some said. But they didn't care. What they lacked in money, they made up for in conviction. He called her Tiff. She called him my rock. By 2013, they had 3 kids. 3 tiny bodies who looked like both of them. Their third, Landon, was born right after the wedding. They were tired, sure, but hopeful. They got certified as massage therapists, opened a business together. Essential needs a small clinic across the state line in Kennedy, Pennsylvania. They posted smiling selfies after every client milestone. Healing hands. Tiffany once wrote beneath a photo of their sign. Healing hearts, Christopher replied. But no photo ever shows the parts that quietly undo a couple. By 2021, cracks had started forming. The business wasn't thriving. Rent climbed. Bills mounted. They were both working full-time and parenting full-time. The pandemic hadn't helped, and so they made a decision Tiffany would later call a slow kind of suffocation. They moved back in with Christopher's parents, with Kay and her husband. The idea made sense on paper, save money, share childcare, reset. But the house was too small for 5 people, let alone 8. Rooms were noisy boundaries, blurry tension constant. Tiffany went from business owner to daughter-in-law again. From partner to someone else's guest. Then, in 2022, Kay's husband, Christopher's father, died. A quiet but steady presence, the one who kept everyone in check, was gone. What was left was chaos. And Kay, now grieving, overstretched, overwhelmed, became both matriarch and referee. Tiffany felt it all tightening. The walls, the noise, the constant eyes. She was raising 3 kids, sharing a bedroom, cleaning up after everyone. And somewhere between the chaos and the silence, she began to vanish inside herself. She told a friend, "I'm drowning in everyone's needs, except my own." Meanwhile, Christopher wasn't just watching her unravel, he was fueling it. Few knew about it at the time, but back in 2019 he'd started something with a woman named Kayla Laurie. She was a co-worker, It lasted nearly 2 years. Texts, calls, quiet rendezvous. When Tiffany found out, she didn't scream. She imploded. She stayed. For the kids, for the image, for herself. But that betrayal lived just beneath her skin, no matter how many times he swore it was over. No matter how many times he begged for trust. And Christopher, he wasn't the apologetic type. He was charming when he wanted to be. But under pressure, he controlled. He sulked. He shouted. And Tiffany learned to step carefully around his moods. The Kayla wound scabbed over, but never really healed. In 2020, as the business stagnated and the house remained overcrowded, Tiffany did something she hadn't done in years. She got a job of her own. Not with Christopher. Not in massage. She started working nights at a plastics factory in Pennsylvania. It was hard work, loud, dirty, but it was hers. That's where she met Jake Hill. Jake was 18, brash, reckless, stuck under house arrest for something stupid he told her, some mistake he didn't want to talk about. But he was funny. He saw Tiffany, the woman, not the mother, the individual, not the role. He told her she deserved better, told her she was beautiful when her hands were raw from packing molds. They started out as friends, quiet lunches, inside jokes. He called her Tiffers, a nickname she pretended to hate. He said her laugh reminded him of summer. She hadn't laughed like that in years. At home, Christopher noticed. Tiffany was checking her phone more. She was smiling when no one else was around. She'd hum again songs she hadn't played since before the affair. Christopher didn't know what had changed, but he knew it had. And when Christopher didn't know, he searched. Her messages, her Facebook, her patterns. Tiffany tried to be careful. Jake had no idea who Christopher really was, not yet. She'd downplay the tension joke that her husband was intense but fine. But one night she confessed. He's not violent, she said. But he breaks things, yells a lot, says things I can't forget. Jake looked at her, then really looked and said, "You're scared of him." She didn't answer. Christopher, meanwhile, was spiraling. He was working less, doing more. Financial pressure gnawed at him. He told Kay he felt invisible in his own house, that Tiffany was slipping away. He started bringing up the past, more accusing, sulking, needling. Tiffany pulled further away. In October, she stayed at Jake's for a night. Just one, she said. She needed space, a breather. She said the kids were with Kay. That Christopher didn't even notice she was gone until the next morning. But he did notice. He always noticed. He just waited. In November, she stayed again. This time longer. 5 days. She cooked with Jake. They watched dumb movies. They didn't sleep together, at least not at first. But intimacy doesn't need a bed. It needs safety. She'd forgotten what it felt like to be safe. Back home, Christopher asked no questions, just watched, took notes. And one day, while Tiffany was at work, he looked through her phone. He found the messages, the photos, the emoji hearts, the nicknames. He didn't scream. He didn't cry. He planned. At first, Tiffany didn't know. She thought maybe she'd been lucky. Maybe Christopher had missed the signs. She didn't understand the stillness in him wasn't peace. It was something much darker. On December 10th, Christopher sat her down. Said he knew everything. Said Jake was a clown. Said she was pathetic. She didn't fight. She packed a bag. She left again, but she came back. She always came back. Because the kids needed her. Because Christmas was coming. Because deep down, she still believed in the version of Christopher who made her laugh in high school. Jake noticed the change when she returned. She was quieter, edgier, her messages less playful. One night she wrote, "He's watching me. I can feel it. Every time I breathe, he's listening." Still, she said she wouldn't leave. Not yet. Then, on December 16th, Jake snapped. Drunk, angry, confused, he sent Christopher photos, screenshots, proof. "She's mine now," he wrote. "You lost." He deleted them moments later, but it was enough. Christopher called him, called Tiffany, left voicemails, screamed, said he forgave her, said he wanted to fix it. But his voice was shaking, not with grief, with rage. Tiffany cried in the bathroom. Her daughter asked if she was okay. She said she had something in her eye. That same night, Christopher told Kay that he and Tiffany were going to work it out. Said they were planning on moving. Said everything was back on track. But Kay didn't believe him. She saw the way Tiffany flinched when Christopher entered the room. The way she never left her phone unattended. And Jake. Jake received one last message from her. A video. Eyes red, voice cracking. "It's over, I'm done. We're done talking." She was sitting in her Jeep, parked at the end of the street, hands trembling. He texted, "What do you mean you're done? Are you okay? Is he there?" He got no reply. Moments later, Christopher messaged him. "Jake Hill from Newcastle. I'm getting closer, bud. We'll talk about this, man to man." Jake saved the message, started searching for a gun of his own. Tiffany had made a choice, but it was already too late. And love once so full of promise now lay shattered, buried under secrets, betrayal, and a silence so sharp it could kill. She came home quietly 5 days after staying with Jake. No announcement, no apology. Just the sound of keys turning in the lock and Tiffany stepping back into a house that no longer felt like hers. Her children didn't ask where she'd been. Not directly. Her daughter hugged her a little longer than usual. Her son smiled but avoided eye contact. Kay looked relieved. Christopher didn't say much, but he was watching. That night, Tiffany moved differently. Slower, smaller. She tiptoed around the kitchen like a stranger. She kept her phone face down, slept in sweats. The room she returned to, the bedroom they once shared, hadn't changed. But she had, because during those 5 days, she'd remembered how it felt to exhale, to laugh without flinching, to walk through a hallway and not brace herself for impact. At Jake's place, she wasn't anyone's wife. She was just Tiffany. And for a while, that had been enough. Now she was back. But not because she'd changed her mind, because she couldn't afford to leave. Her plan was clear. Stay long enough to sort out housing, get some money together, talk to a lawyer, get her name on something of her own. Jake had offered his couch, his car, even a ring, but she wasn't ready. She didn't want to jump from one man's house to another's. She wanted independence, her own keys, her own kitchen, her own life. She told a friend via voice note whispered in a bathroom stall at work, "I'm doing this for me. Not because I want Jake. Not because I hate Chris. Because I need to know I can." But Christopher sensed it. The shift. She smiled less around him, took longer showers, had excuses to step outside. And he didn't like it. He started checking her texts again, reading every thread. Late at night while she slept, he'd sit on the couch scrolling through old messages, his face pale in the glow of her screen, looking for signs, for proof, for reasons to confirm what he already feared. And then, on the night of December 16th, he found it. It wasn't just a message. It was a photo. Jake, shirtless, lying in Tiffany's lap, her fingers visible in the corner of the frame, her nail polish unmistakable. There was a caption, too. It said, "Guess you're not the only man who knows how to make her smile." He stared at it. His breathing grew loud, then ragged. He saved the photo, then unsent it, then saved it again. His mind didn't race. It roared. He called her. She didn't pick up. He called again, left a voicemail. "You think this is funny? You think you're gonna play me? I gave you everything. I took you back. And you're still out there spreading your legs for a fucking child." He paced the living room. The walls too close, the air too heavy. He opened the fridge, slammed it shut, turned off the lights, turned them on again. The house was asleep. But inside him, something was wide awake. A fury he couldn't put down. He called Jake. Straight to voicemail. He texted, "We need to talk, man to man. Tell me where to meet you." Then he deleted that too. Upstairs, Tiffany stirred. When he entered the room, she was sitting on the bed, rubbing lotion into her hands. What she asked, not even looking up. He stood in the doorway, silent. "What now, Chris?" She pressed, exasperated. "You gonna stand there all night like some goddamn shadow?" He stepped closer. "You lied to me," he said. Tiffany looked up, then eyes narrowing. "I didn't lie," she said carefully. "I just didn't tell you everything. And you don't own me. You sent him pictures. That's none of your business. He's a kid, so were we." The room buzzed with tension. For a moment, neither moved. The silence between them louder than any scream. "You're disgusting," he muttered. Tiffany stood up. No. I'm done being made to feel like the villain for wanting more than this. He stepped closer. You really think he loves you? He treats me like a human being. You think he's gonna raise your kids? Pay your bills. Hold you when you cry. He listens. Christopher laughed. It was cruel, dry, lifeless. Tiffany didn't flinch. He doesn't know you, Christopher said. Neither do you. The conversation ended there. But the damage had been done. That night, Tiffany slept on the edge of the bed facing the wall. Christopher stayed awake, staring at the ceiling. His mind spun. Visions of Jake, of betrayal, of Tiffany's laughter with someone else, of being left alone. Because that was what scared him most. Not that she cheated, not that she'd moved on, but that she might be okay without him. The next day, he searched her purse, her car, her coat pockets. He found a sticky note tucked into her wallet. It had a phone number and the words, legal aid, family law. He froze. She was leaving. She'd meant it. It wasn't just a phase, a tantrum. She wasn't bluffing. She had a plan. He confronted her in the kitchen. What the fuck is this? She took one look and said, it's mine. He slammed it down on the table. You're really doing this? She nodded. I can't breathe here. Don't give me that. What about the kids? They'll be okay. They'll hate you. They'll be safe. He stared at her. For a second, his eyes brimmed. Then it was gone. Just steel. Cold. Dead. You leave me, he said. You'll regret it. Tiffany said nothing, but her silence was the answer. Over the next 48 hours, the walls closed in further. Christopher stopped eating, started muttering to himself, checking windows, watching Jake's Facebook page. He posted cryptic things, deleted them, reposted. One status read, anybody know where Jake Hill works? Asking for a friend? A comment appeared under it. You want him bagged and gagged or just found? Christopher didn't respond. He didn't have to. The message had been received. Meanwhile, Tiffany started packing. Slowly. Secretly. A shirt here, a photo frame there. She had a backpack hidden under the sink behind the bleach. It held a burner phone, $200 in cash, and a notebook full of plans. But she never got to use it. Because Christopher found that too. He read her notes. He saw the list. Apartment viewing, deck 19:10 a.m. Kids' birth certificates, change locks, start over. He tore it up. Then he sat on the floor, head in hands, whispering she was never going to stay. That evening, Tiffany came home from work. He was waiting in the dark. Let's talk, he said. She paused. Now, she asked. Yes. They sat in the living room. A place once filled with family laughter now smelled like burnt coffee and sweat. The tree still half decorated, a single red bulb pulsing like a heartbeat. I read your plans, he said. Tiffany froze. You were going to take them from me? I wasn't. You were going to take my kids. They're our kids. He stood. I won't let you go. You can't stop me. I won't let you ruin everything. I'm not ruining anything. I'm saving myself. You think he'll protect you? I don't need him to. Then why are you running to him? I'm not running. I'm walking away from you. He punched the wall. The photo of their wedding day fell. The glass cracked. Tiffany stood. I'm leaving. Tomorrow. I don't care if I have to walk. I'm done. Christopher didn't stop her from walking upstairs, but he followed. From that moment, Tiffany was a prisoner in her own home. He took her car keys, hid her phone, told Kay she was sick, kept the kids busy, wouldn't let her be alone for more than 5 minutes. And yet, she kept trying. She wrote a note to her mother in Mississippi, slipped it into her son's backpack. It never made it out. She called legal aid again. The line was busy. She tried Jake. No answer. That night, she wrote in her journal, I am afraid. He knows. He's not going to let me go. The last thing she ever wrote. On the night of December 18th, Kay kissed her goodnight. I love you, she said. I love you too, Tiffany whispered. She went into the bathroom, turned on the shower, and disappeared. Forever. It was the last normal moment anyone would have with her. The Christmas tree stood half-dressed, a box of tinsel still open on the couch. The television murmured an old Hallmark movie in the background. Kay had just finished sorting stocking stuffers when Tiffany came in from work. She looked tired, not just from the shift, but from the weight of pretending. Kay didn't ask where she'd been. She didn't need to. A mother-in-law who becomes a second mother always knows when a girl's heart has broken twice, once from betrayal and again from losing herself trying to survive it. Tiffany walked to the tree. She looked at the lights, half blinking, half dead. She reached out to fix a crooked ornament. Kay stepped behind her and wrapped her in a hug. "I love you," Kay said. Tiffany smiled. "I love you too." They didn't know it, but that was goodbye. Later that evening, Tiffany disappeared behind the bathroom door. She said she needed a shower. No one saw her again. At least not alive. Upstairs, Kay cleaned the kitchen. The kids were watching TV, arguing over which movie to watch. Laughter spilled into the hallway. It was one of those evenings where the noise feels normal, even comforting. Downstairs, something horrific was already in motion. Around midnight, Christopher texted a name, "Come over." Randy Slager had known Chris since childhood. They weren't close anymore, but history clings. Randy had seen Christopher at his best and his worst, but nothing prepared him for what he walked into that night. When he arrived, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Christopher opened the door without a word and motioned him in. "You alone?" he asked. Randy nodded. "Come downstairs." They moved through the hallway, past the blinking Christmas lights, the silent television, the boots piled by the door, down into the basement. It smelled like bleach and wet drywall. The air was thick, the silence sickening. Christopher didn't speak for a long time. Then he pointed to the shower wall. There in the ceramic was a hole. Small, dark, precisely bored into the tile. Around it, faint stains no amount of scrubbing could fully hide. "That's where it happened," Christopher said. Randy blinked. "What happened?" Christopher held out his phone. The screen lit up. A photo. It was Tiffany. Her face bloodied, the right side collapsed inward, eyes half open but unseeing. Her skin had the dull gray cast of the newly dead. Blood streaked down the tile behind her. Her hair was matted, her mouth slack. Randy recoiled. "What the fuck, Chris?" "She wouldn't stop," Christopher said, voice eerily calm. "She was leaving, taking the kids, humiliating me." Randy backed up. "I shouldn't be here. She said she was better off without me," Chris went on. "She said she didn't need me anymore. You killed her." Christopher didn't answer. He just looked at Randy with something between emptiness and warning. "I need your help." No, I can't. "I need your fucking help, Randy. I'm calling the cops." Christopher stepped forward, lifting his shirt just enough to show the gun tucked into his waistband. "You call the cops, and I kill every fucking person in this house. You, me, the kids, my mom, everyone." Randy froze. The world narrowed to a single truth. He was now part of this. "Why me?" "Because you don't talk." Christopher handed him a pair of gloves. "Help me get her out." Randy moved like a puppet, his mind disconnected, body mechanical. Together they dragged Tiffany's body wrapped hastily in a blanket, a red tarp beneath her limbs, stiffening up the basement stairs. The kids were asleep. Kay snored in the bedroom. It was just past 300 a.m. Every stair creaked. Every breath felt too loud. Randy's knees buckled under the weight not just of her body, but of the moment. They reached the back door. Christopher opened it. Snow had begun to fall. The two men stepped into the yard, crunching over the frozen grass. There behind the shed, Christopher opened the Jeep. "Lay her flat," he instructed. Randy obeyed. Then they rolled her into a carpet. Thick, brown, the kind you'd throw away and never miss. They duct-taped it at both ends, sealing her like freight. Christopher pulled the tarp tighter, then zip-tied it. "She's not going anywhere now," he muttered. Randy tried not to vomit. He could still see her hand sticking out slightly. Her nails painted faint pink, chipped on the edges. A mother's hand. "I'm done," Randy whispered. Christopher looked at him. "No, you're in this now." The next morning, Randy left without a word. But he didn't sleep. He didn't eat. And on December 20th, 2 days later, his father found him sitting in the garage, shaking. "What did you do?" the man asked. Randy didn't answer. Just said, "We need to go to the police." That's when the story broke. That's when a family shattered. Back at the Morrison house, police were preparing to move. They wanted to catch Christopher off guard. Body cam footage captures the moment. 2 officers waiting near the Jeep. The wind is sharp snow flurries dancing through the light. Their boots crunch on gravel as they approach. "Sir, do you have your license on you?" Christopher calm. "Yes, sir." "Any weapons?" "Yeah, it's on my belt." "Okay. I'm just going to place you in cuffs while I get your gun, all right?" Christopher doesn't resist, but his eyes dead calm stare into nothing. Inside the house, investigators move in. Basement. Shower wall. Tile removed. They find the bullet lodged behind it. Blood in the grout. Trash bags in the garage. They follow the trail. Out back. To the shed. It's locked. They break it open. Inside a rolled-up carpet. Black bags. Duct tape. And a smell no one forgets. When they open it, even the most seasoned detective steps back. Tiffany Morrison cut into pieces. 6 trash bags. A red tarp. Her body told the story he refused to. Shot in the face. From less than 3 feet. Just like the photo. They photograph everything. Tag every piece. Silence blankets the scene until one officer whispers, "She never had a chance." The last image before the cut, a teddy bear dropped in the mud near the shed door, wet from snow, one eye missing. Then, fade to black. It was just after sunset, December 20th. The sky over East Liverpool burned amber soft against the tension crawling across the quiet residential block of Shadyside Avenue. A dozen plainclothes officers had taken up positions along the street. 2 unmarked cruisers idled near the corner. Their headlights dimmed. Their engines silent. At exactly 6:09 p.m., Randy's call came through. Christopher answered on the 3rd ring. "You said you wanted help," Randy said, voice steady. "I'm here. I'm out front." Silence. "Then stay there," Christopher replied. "I'm coming out." That was the cue. From the moment Christopher opened the door and stepped outside, everything moved like clockwork. "Police hands on your head." "Do it now." Multiple voices. Laser sights danced across his chest. He froze. "Turn around. Drop to your knees." Christopher hesitated, then complied. He lowered himself slowly onto the frozen ground, hands behind his head. One officer stepped forward, kicked the firearm from his waistband, a black Taurus 9mm fully loaded. Handcuffs clicked. Christopher Morrison was under arrest. Inside the unmarked cruiser, his expression didn't change. He stared straight ahead, as if none of it were real. But it was, and the nightmare was only beginning. At the station, the first interview began just after 7:00 p.m. Detective Ramirez sat across from him. No shouting, no accusations. Just calm, persistent questions. "When was the last time you saw your wife?" "She left Sunday night," Christopher replied. "Said she was going to her mom's." "Mississippi." "Yeah. Did she take anything?" "Some clothes, a bag. I think she called someone to pick her up." "Who?" "I don't know." "You didn't ask?" "No. She's done this before." Ramirez nodded slowly. "How was her mood that day?" Christopher shrugged. "Same as always. Cold, distant. She hadn't been herself." "You mean since she started seeing Jake Hill?" Christopher's jaw twitched. "Is that what he told you?" "We've spoken to Jake." Christopher looked down at his cuffed hands. "She was gonna ruin everything. Just walk out. I let her go." "But you didn't." He didn't answer. Ramirez leaned in slightly. "Why do you still have her phone, Chris?" Christopher blinked. "What?" "Her phone. We found it in your nightstand." Silence. "You said she took it with her." Maybe she left it. I didn't notice." "Funny thing," Ramirez said, sliding a printed log across the table. "Her text history stops at 9:14 p.m. on December 18th. No outgoing calls, no messages, not even a ping." She turned it off. "No, Chris, you did." Christopher shifted in his seat. "You can stop now," Ramirez said softly. "We know." "You don't know anything." Ramirez reached down, placed a Ziploc bag on the table. Inside a folded piece of red fabric, stained and torn. "Do you recognize this?" Christopher looked away. Then another bag, this one with the caked tip of a spent bullet still marked with hair. Then the photos, 6 black garbage bags. The red tarp, the duct tape, the shovel, the saw, the handwriting on the receipt, Home Depot. 12, 20, 10, 12 a.m. Ramirez's voice dropped to a whisper. "We know everything." Christopher closed his eyes and exhaled. Back on Shadyside Avenue, the forensic team moved in. Flashlights flickered through every room. Floorboards were removed, carpets lifted. The scent of bleach couldn't hide what was left behind. In the basement, technicians used luminol to trace the blood. It glowed like a ghost across the concrete. A trail, a struggle, impact patterns against the tile of the downstairs bathroom. High-velocity spatter, gunshot residue. The shower wall, freshly repaired with adhesive and spackle, hid the hole where the bullet had passed through Tiffany's skull. They removed the tile. Behind it, embedded in soft insulation, fragmented bone and copper jacket from the 9mm round. They bagged everything. Inside the garage, a roll of unused duct tape matched the one found in the shed. In a trash can partially burned, they found a list written in Tiffany's hand. "Pack kids' medical files. Lawyer call. Clean out Jeep. Monday 10 view apt." Near the kitchen sink, tucked behind the cleaning supplies, her backpack. Inside her spare phone. Still charged. Last message, "I'm scared." Timestamp December 18th, 8:51 p.m. The shed gave up the rest. The carpet was soaked through. Tiffany's blood had soaked into the wood beneath. Each bag contained pieces. Her hands, her torso, her legs, her face. Each labeled, numbered, stored. She'd been carved like trash. Every inch of the property became sacred ground. Forensics didn't just collect evidence. They honored the truth she couldn't speak. Back at the precinct, Christopher folded, not all at once. First came the resignation, then the rage. Then finally the slow, bitter unraveling of the lies. She said she was leaving, he muttered. Taking the kids. Going to Jake. What happened in the bathroom? She said I was nothing. Did she fight? I think she cried. Did you mean to shoot her? No. Did you mean to kill her? Pause. Then she made me feel like I didn't matter. That wasn't an answer, but it was enough. He described the moment, December 18th, 9:12 p.m. Tiffany had just stepped out of the shower. She was combing her hair, wearing his old hoodie. She turned and said she'd signed divorce papers. She said, "This is the last time you'll ever control me." So he shot her, point blank, right in the face. She died instantly. And the rest? He paused. That part felt worse. Randy's name came up next. He admitted calling him. I needed a witness. I needed someone to see what she'd done. But she was dead. Christopher looked up, eyes hollow. I know. The next day, the press conference drew dozens of reporters. Sheriff's office confirmed that Tiffany Morrison's remains had been recovered from her own backyard. Charges included aggravated murder, tampering with evidence, abuse of a corpse, unlawful possession of a firearm. Randy was not charged but placed under protective custody. Kay, the mother-in-law, collapsed upon hearing the details. I hugged her goodbye, she wept. Under the Christmas tree, and didn't even know. The community went silent. People lit candles outside Tiffany's home, pink ones, because that was her favorite color. On a fence, someone hung a sign. She deserved better. Back inside the Morrison home, the children had been taken to their aunts. In the living room, a single ornament swung gently on the half-decorated tree. It read, "Believe." And for the first time in days, someone did. The second interrogation began at 9:04 a.m., the morning after Christopher's arrest. The room was colder this time. No coffee, no chatter, just the silent hum of a recording device. Two detectives sat across from him, Ramirez and Fields, back straight, faces unreadable. Christopher was brought in without handcuffs, but his wrists bore the marks. He looked thinner, smaller, like the walls had closed in overnight. He didn't ask for a lawyer. He didn't ask for water. He didn't ask at all. Ramirez clicked the recorder. Christopher Morrison, December 21st, 2023, 9:04 a.m. Present Detective Ramirez, Detective Fields. Silence. Ramirez placed two folders on the table. One was thick and bulging with photographs. The other thin, almost empty. He tapped the thicker one. This is everything we know. Witnesses, evidence, forensics, GPS, surveillance, the autopsy. He tapped the thinner one. This is everything you've told us. Still no response. Fields leaned forward, voice calm. We want to give you a chance to close the gap, Chris. The truth is coming out whether you speak or not. This is your moment. Christopher stared at the tabletop, breathing shallow. Ramirez opened the first folder and began sliding photos across the table one by one. Photo 1, the basement wall with the bullet hole exposed. Photo 2, Tiffany's cell phone found powered off in his nightstand. Photo 3, the receipt for the saw time-stamped 2 days after the murder. Photo 4, the torn red cloth soaked in blood. Photo 5, the garbage bags in the shed. Christopher didn't look away. Fields studied his reaction. Anything you want to say? Still nothing. Then Ramirez dropped the last photo. It was Tiffany's face. The forensics team had reconstructed it digitally, restoring the image as best they could after the damage. Ramirez slid it closer. This was your wife. Christopher blinked, his jaw clenched. This was the mother of your children. A woman who wanted to be free, not dead. She deserved to walk away. You didn't let her. The tension hung between them. Then, without warning, Christopher spoke. I was under pressure. Ramirez didn't flinch. Go on. I wasn't sleeping. I had chest pains. I couldn't eat. I knew she was cheating. I knew people were laughing at me behind my back. You felt humiliated. I felt erased. And killing her fixed that. No, he said. But for a moment, it silenced the noise. Ramirez sat back. Is that your truth? Christopher swallowed hard. It's what I have left. But when pressed further, he shut down. I want a lawyer, he said. The session ended. 3 days later, the bail hearing took place at Columbiana County Court. The courtroom was packed. Friends, reporters, members of the community who had known Tiffany as a kind woman, a hard worker, someone who always put others first. Kay sat in the front row, rigid. Her hands gripped the edge of the bench. Her mouth trembled, but her eyes were sharp. Christopher was brought in through the side door wearing a wrinkled jumpsuit, shackled. Still clean-shaven. His gaze swept over the crowd but landed nowhere. When the judge asked for a plea, his public defender replied, "Not guilty, Your Honor." Then came the moment that no one expected. The prosecutor presented the court with an excerpt from a pre-arrest recorded phone call, a conversation between Christopher and a cousin made 2 days after Tiffany was murdered and before Randy went to the police. In the recording, Christopher's voice could be heard saying, "I can't take it, man. Every time I walk past the shed, I lose it. I keep thinking, what if someone finds her?" The courtroom went still. Kay rose slowly. She didn't cry, not this time. Instead, she stepped out of the aisle, walked to the center of the courtroom floor, and screamed. "He did it in my house." Her voice cracked with disbelief. "Right under my roof, where my grandkids sleep." A bailiff moved toward her, but the judge held up a hand. I hugged her goodbye. Under the Christmas tree, Kay sobbed, and she was already dead. He killed her that night. The judge cleared his throat. Bail is denied. Defendant is to remain in custody until trial. That night, the house on Shadyside stood dark. Only the porch light flickered burnt out on one side. But in the backyard, under police supervision, the forensic team returned for a final sweep. Not because they missed anything, but because sometimes it's not about evidence. It's about bearing witness. Kay stood on the lawn, alone, wrapped in her coat. She didn't approach the shed. She didn't speak. She just looked at the small, unremarkable structure where her son had taken a woman's life, where he had dismembered her body, where he had buried the truth. One officer approached her gently. "Ma'am, would you like to go inside?" Kay shook her head. "No." Her voice was clear. "I already know what's in there." Then she whispered, "I didn't raise a monster, but he became one." And she walked away. Back in custody, Christopher was moved to solitary confinement after a minor altercation with another inmate. He didn't resist. He didn't speak, not even to his lawyer. But then, during a brief status hearing on January 5th, he said something else, something the court reporter almost didn't catch. When asked by the judge if he understood the charges, Christopher nodded and muttered, "It was never supposed to happen like that." She said something. I snapped. "I didn't mean." The judge cut him off, but those in the gallery heard it. It wasn't a confession, but it wasn't silence either. Meanwhile, Tiffany's family gathered for a private vigil near the Ohio River. There was no casket, only a table of framed photos, a few of her favorite songs, candles lit in a circle. Her sister read aloud from one of Tiffany's old journal entries. "Even in the dark, I believe there's a light waiting. Sometimes you just have to survive long enough to see it." No one in the circle spoke after that. They didn't need to. Her words had done what her voice could no longer do, remind them that she was more than how she died. She had lived. The investigation's final report listed the case as closed. Cause of death, gunshot wound to the face at close range. Time of death, approximately 9:12 p.m. December 18th, manner of death, homicide. Inside the file was one note from Detective Fields, handwritten in the margin. She tried to leave. He made sure she never would. The words sat on the page like a tombstone, but the story wasn't finished. Because Christopher would face trial. Because Tiffany's children would grow up asking questions. Because a mother would replay that last hug under the tree over and over, trying to find the second when life disappeared and she didn't see it. And because somewhere a Christmas ornament still hung gently swinging in the cold Ohio light. It read, "Believe." And though it had once meant magic joy, the promise of something better, now it meant truth. And the courage to face it. It started with the smell of burning plastic. Kay Morrison would never forget that night, the way it hung in the cold December air like something forbidden. She had stepped outside to dump trash and saw the smoke curling up from the metal barrel behind the shed. Christopher stood there, hunched, his hands trembling. A garden hose lay tangled nearby, still dripping. The fire hissed and popped. Something inside didn't want to burn. She'd asked him, "What are you doing?" He didn't turn around. "Just cleaning up," he muttered. He wouldn't look at her. Wouldn't let her go near. Wouldn't let anyone into the basement. Every time she tried to do laundry, he was already down there. She remembered how he'd lash out if she even mentioned going downstairs. "There's mice," he said once. I put down poison. But it wasn't mice. Jake Hill had known something wasn't right. Tiffany had said so herself more than once. She'd sit on the hood of his truck after work, smoking eyes, darting voice low. "He doesn't sleep," she whispered once. He stands outside the bathroom at night, just watching, like he's waiting for something. Jake thought she was exaggerating until the day she called him shaking. "I was gonna dial 911, she said. "But I couldn't. I couldn't make it real." Her voice cracked. "He's not normal, Jake. I think he'd rather see me dead than let me go." Those were the last words she ever said to him. Jake found out about her death on Facebook. A tagged post, a link to a news story, a photo of Tiffany smiling holding a cup of coffee in the sunlight. He stared at the screen for a long time. Then he opened a bottle of bourbon, sat on his porch, drank, and cried. For a long time he couldn't stop shaking. "I should have made her call," he whispered. "I should have done more." But perhaps the most shocking revelation came not from the case file, but from Christopher's past. Court records unearthed a juvenile charge from 2002, age 11. The charge, animal cruelty. He had shot the neighbor's dog point blank with a BB rifle. When asked why, he'd replied, "It barked too loud." At 15, he stabbed a childhood friend during an argument over a bicycle. The blade punctured the boy's liver. Christopher was sent to a youth detention center for 6 months. He was never the same after that. Tiffany had never known. Or if she did, she never said. Maybe she thought she could change him. Maybe she hoped love would be enough. It wasn't. Back in the courtroom, sentencing day came on a gray April morning. The judge's chambers were packed. No cameras. Just people, family, neighbors, reporters, and strangers who had followed the case from the start. Christopher stood for the final time. Shackled, pale, empty. His lawyer spoke first, asking the court for leniency, citing mental health, childhood trauma, and the pressures of domestic instability. Then came the victim impact statements. Jake stood up. He didn't shout, didn't cry. "I loved her," he said simply. "And I really saw her for who she was. Strong, tired, brave. She just wanted to be free." He turned to Christopher. "You didn't kill her out of rage. You killed her because she wouldn't be yours anymore." Then Kay stood. Her voice shook, but she held her ground. "You called her a bad mother," she said. "But who stayed with the kids while you drank? Who fed them? Who worked double shifts while you sulked in the basement?" She pointed at him. "You killed her in my house. And now every time I see a Christmas light, I see her face. Every time I hear my grandchildren laugh, I wonder how much of her they'll remember and how much of you they'll have to forget." The courtroom was silent. Then the judge spoke. He leaned forward, looking directly at Christopher. "You say you loved her. But love is not control. Love is not a cage. Love is not a gun fired in the dark." His voice was sharp. "You called her a bad mother, then stood here and called it love. This is not love. This is cowardice." He paused. Life in prison, without the possibility of parole. The gavel dropped. And with it, the last illusion of Christopher Morrison fell apart. Outside the courthouse, a group of women gathered. Some held photos of Tiffany. Others held signs. "Believe women. Leave is enough." She tried to run. Kay stood among them. Not as a mother-in-law. Not as the woman who once welcomed Christopher into the world. But as a witness. A woman who saw evil grow beneath her roof. A woman who would carry the weight of that silence forever. "I should have known," she said softly. "I should have seen it. But I didn't want to believe my own son." And yet here she stood, still believing, not in Christopher, but in Tiffany, in truth, and in the terrible price silence can cost. The house on Shadyside Street no longer echoes with shouting. No footsteps up the stairs in the middle of the night. No slammed doors, no silence sharp enough to cut. It is empty now, but across town in a modest white bungalow, with a blue fence and sunflowers painted on the mailbox, life moves gently forward. Tiffany's 3 children wake to cereal and cartoons. They fight over the remote. They cry when their toast gets cold. They ask about their mother not every day, but often enough to break hearts quietly. Her parents, now full-time caregivers, answer with grace never lies. "Mommy loved you more than anything in the whole world," they say. "She tried her best, and she's still with you in everything you do." They tell stories, how she danced in the kitchen, how she sang off-key in the car, how she used to braid her daughter's hair with sparkly clips even when running late. And at night they read her favorite books aloud. Voices trembling, smiles heavy. 1 year passes. The next Christmas, a new tree stands in the corner. It's smaller plastic, but the kids hang ornaments just the same. There's a photo of Tiffany in the middle, smiling with all three of them bundled in scarves. The lights blink softly. The room is warm. Outside, snow falls gently on the roof. There's no chaos, no shouting, only the quiet kind of love that endures. The screen fades to black. Narration returns gentle but resolute. Christopher Morrison couldn't bear to let Tiffany live a new life. If he couldn't have her, no one could. But he failed to understand something Tiffany always knew. That love, real love, lives on in her children. In their laughter, in their questions, in the way they hold each other when the world feels too loud. It is they, not Christopher, who carry her forward. They are the reason this nightmare won't define her. Because healing begins not in vengeance, but in remembering who she truly was. A soft note plays. The final text fades in stark against the dark. Tiffany Morrison, 1989 to 2023. She deserved a life that was free and safe. Fade out. Silence. But not the end.